Recording has started, Frank, you can go.
So, yes, thank you very much for inviting me. It's here my first presentation in English, and I would presentation of my Multispeeder. The development begins last year in January, and it's a nice journey. But I would like to tell my English is not so good. Yeah, and this way include important information for you. So thanks very much. It's a great honor for me to be able to present my work here. About me, I was born in Emden in Germany, and I'm living in Berlin. As a soldier, I currently work at IT administration in the research department of a military hospital. Additionally, I serve Additionally, I serve as a chairman of the organization that supports soldiers returning from deployments with psychological issues. Name is Angriff auf die Seele. My first experience with a computer was 1983 with the Commodore VIC-20, also known as the VIC-20 here in Germany, VC20 in Germany. Later, I owned a C64 and earned the money for my first PC by working on hardware expansions, speed doors and repairs and other things. I programmed demos and tools for the 64, and I was known in the scene as 8224 freak. AK. In the early 90s, I completed my apprenticeships as a radio and television technician and the technical customer service department of the Quelle KG, one of the largest mail order company at the time. And reason for this, that I was already known for my ability to repair computers. I mostly worked there repairing C64s, Amigas, and PCs. In 1994, I started my career in the German Armed Forces. From then on, I specialized in PC systems, Windows, and Linux. It was until 24 that I finally got my Commodore computers out of the box in the basement again. So my youth, I spent most of my free time in the computer club in my home at the computer club Frisia. I ran the CCF mailbox for over 10 years, to serve as a hub for the well-known FidoNet at the time. My motivation, after 4 years break, I wanted to do something with electronics again and refresh, update my knowledge. Getting my dusty computer out of the cellar after many moves and getting up and running again. That is possible what is possible when you combine old and new technologies, enjoying the computer technology of the 80s from my youth. So, getting started. My first modifications or test consists to making a RAM and ROM of my 25041 disk drives modified. Therefore, I successfully connected to NVM RAM with 500 kilobyte and initialized address logic, allowing to modify the ROM and RAM as desired. I had also never created PCBs using KiCad and PCB way before. Therefore, watching tutorials and YouTube and learn about it and archivate my first success. My last PCB were traditional made in the 80s using copper boards and etching bath and an exposure unit. After mastering that, whole new world of possibilities open up for me. I had already wanted to build Dolphin DOS myself in the 80s, but back then it was too expensive for me. Silver Drive, on the web I found technical information. My goal was simplify the circuit and design the technologies in a way that would make it easy to use and all other common speeders and various Commodore drives. This was my first cost reduction version of 4 ECs and a few passive components, additional up to 8 speeders, such as Dolphin DOS 2, SpeedDOS, SpeedDOS Expert, Jiffy DOS, SJiffy DOS, and the original CBM DOS could be started in the EEPROM, stored in the EEPROM, and configured via jumpers. The PCB fits in both drivers. I came across the Incredible project to Retro Ninja on the GitHub, a kernel switcher that allows switching kernel banks via DOS commands. It was exactly what I had been looking for. As I didn't want to install switches or drill holes into my case, I reached out to Retro Ninja, and together we optimized the software for the Atmega microcontroller. I then integrated the circuit into my Multispeeder. Many thanks to Retro Ninja. This was the first version of, or the second version of my Multispeeder for the Commodore disk drive 54.1, sorry. The second version can now switch between 8 kernels via DOS command and control the RAM configuration. It was the first time I used a microcontroller. The switchless Multispeeder features 400 kilobytes kernel ROM, 32 RAM, and an Atmega 328 for managing the RAM banks, RAM-ROM banks. Here's a short video. Oh, you can see I swapped the ROM of the drive with a DOS command here to the ROM 2. The drive is initialized and switch the ROM, and you can now see it's switched to Dolphin DOS, and it's run under Dolphin DOS. It loads very fast now. So. And now my next journey, I'm ready for the next challenge, my Dolphin DOS 3 and 500 kilobyte RAM for my C128 DCR computer, Commodore computer. And this is the one. 8 DOS ROMs for internal disk drive via DOS command, switchable, parallel port, PIA 68 21 and or the 65C21, 500 kilobyte expansion in 64 8 kilobyte RAM banks, RAM board compatible, additional ROM area for extra ROM features, my Dolphin DOS 5, parallel switching of DOS, C128 and C64 kernel with the U32 kernel switcher, internal parallel cable to the C64, C128, and compatible with the Multispeeder for external disk drives. Here you can see the installation in my C128. Right at the right down, you can see my Multispeeder, and at the left side is a kernel switcher for switching kernels for the C64 and C128. And upside you can see, at the top, you can see the parallel port adapter. Yes. And now a little demo for my C128. I switch on the computer and start with the standard system. And in the drive, I have the Exploding Fist game. Go to 64 mode, the standard mode. I load the directory to show all it's good or fine. And now switch the system into the Dolphin DOS mode. Now the floppy starts, blink, and now the system. Can I reset? This is a standard mode with Dolphin DOS 3. And now the 64 mode with Dolphin DOS. And now load 200 blocks in real time. That was it. Be crunching. Now a reset and jump into the 64 mode. Now swap the side, this side. Gianna Sisters. Loading correctly. Okay. Now reset. And now I read the whole disk. I swap to my new Dolphin DOS 25. Here. And now I read the whole disk into the drive memory. Page 1. That's very fast. Should I test my 2 MHz version? It's much faster, but that was it. Now flip the disk and read the exploding fist in the RAM page 2. That was. Now write back side 1 to disk 2 on the floppy. The write is a little slower while the verified mode is on. So, and now Gianna Sisters and can load from the disk. Now swap the disk. And now write back the RAM page 2 to the disk. That was, and now exploding fist is on this side. And it's load start correctly. Now I swap to the next to Jiffy JOS. Now I restart the computer. and Jiffy DOS is here. I have two versions of Jiffy DOS. One is the standard version, and the second version is a patched version with track caching with my RAM. And then Jiffy DOS is a little bit faster with the original system kernel from Jiffy DOS for the 64 E128. That's which is ROM, but that is a bank with the patched version, and now I switch to my Dolphin DOS kernel for Jiffy DOS. So, zack. And now loading with Jiffy DOS and track caching. It's a little bit faster. And now switch back to my Dolphin DOS. That, and that's was it. So here some technical information. The standard RAM at 0 to 7 FF. Then the VIA is standard, VIA 1, VIA 2 for the serial port and the drive control. And for the C128, the controller for MFM reading and control. At 303 FFF is my expansion ROM for new routines for Dolphin DOS. And then the SIA for the communication processor 2 MHz mode, burst mode. And then the PIA IO EC for the Dolphin DOS 3. And from 6,000 to 7 FFF, the 8 KB RAM from my Multispeeder is 400 kilobytes with 64 banks, and from 8 000 to 7 to FFFF, the DOS kernel bank. Here my functions to switch the ROMs. You can load a file or open a command channel, or use the commands from SpeedDOS or Dolphin DOS or Jiffy DOS. It's not important to use with the method here. Temporarily, you can disable the switchless mode with null at RN-ROM. That's fine when you have incompatibilities with the switching. When you restart the drive, power on, power off, the switch mode is enabled. Here's a C128 C64 kernel schema. And here I have a sample routine for switching, bank switching the PIA. The RAM banking is switching with the PIA, IO, EC, and it's very simple to use the RAM pages. I have some diagnostic tools to check the RAM. And yeah, programming in assembler again after 30 years. And now I'm working on new routines for my Dolphin DOS 24. At the time, I integrating nib tools routines from OpenCBM. That's fine to create a copy routine for GCR nibble copies of a disk via internal DOS commands. Then you can copy some protected disk without load the data in the computer internally in the floppy. A RAM disk is planned, and my plan, the Dolphin DOS with the Multispeeder for the Commodore disk drive 5041, 2 versions, and external 5071. And the C128 DCR. My roadmap for the next 40 years: expansion of the Dolphin DOS with additional features, GCR nibble copy, RAM disk, SD card support, 100 compatible replacement for the CPU, PIA, and VIA, external XZOOM USB connector for OpenCPM, microcontroller with SD card support for D64 and G64 files from SD card via floppy drive, and Wi-Fi interface. I call it Wi-Fi to EDC, OpenCBM. Yeah, and anything else that's cool. Yeah, and when you're interested, you enjoy development and feel integrated, feel free to reach out at multispeeder@emnet. I want you. So here's my version for the /5041. My version for the 5041-2. My version for the 5071. And my Multispeeder version for the C128 DCR. Yes, and now one more thing. This is my first prototype for the internal XZOOM 5041 with parallel port in combination with my Multispeeder. It's working. And here's the extreme prototyping XZOOM 5041 parallel port, and ESP Wi-Fi access to the disk drive. So, this was it, and thank you very much.
Great, many thanks, Frank. I think the demo was a really nice demo. I had questions when you started, and then you kept answering the questions. So I wanted to know, like, is it then fitting inside the drive? But you have showed the setup, so that was very interesting. Also, I wanted to ask for which drive is it compatible, but then you have a separate, different version then for each of the drives. I think during the demo we've seen that it's really the reading speed, and I guess you can use it also to copy. Then the speed is also increased. I think you load the Giana sisters in less than 20 seconds or something like that. So that was quite impressive, I must say. But now the question that remains: would it be then possible to maybe bring the multispeeder outside from the drive? You know, like to have the kind of setup or the cables going from the drive there, and maybe having one multispeeder that could be adapted to multiple drives, or even being accessed then. You know, like an external module. Would that be some kind of evolution?
The multi-switching, also DOS switching and kernel switching for the computer is only for the C128 DCR. For the other external drives, you can switch only the DOS via commands, and you must switch the kernel ROMs in the computer with ROM switcher, kernel EEPROM switcher, whatever. That can I control it, while then the Atmega microcontroller is only fitting on the multispeeder, and I have no connection to the C64 or C128. It's possible I can development in the future a solution, but at time I no have a solution for the external drives.
Okay, I was thinking maybe not having one version that is compatible with all, but if, for example, you have two 1571,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Then maybe you could just like distribute it between the two 1571,
Yeah.
and use the same board as a resource, and then it would switch from one to the other.
Yeah, that's no problem. You can set the parallel port more drives on the same parallel port, and the IEC cable can you plug in as standard, and that's not a problem. You can I can use 3 drives at time with Dolphin DOS.
Okay.
I have adapter for it.
Good. Okay, nice. I don't know if anybody has any question for you. I don't see any question in the chat, but okay, apparently not. I will then stop the recording. Many thanks, Frank, again.